everybody, this is Teacher Donnie. Today I'm going to talk about how I knew nothing about the Japanese culture and learned so much after becoming a Cambly tutor. Well, actually, before I started teaching with Cambly, I barely knew anything about the Japanese culture. All I knew was basically Pokemon and a bunch of other anime stuff that I'm sure everyone knows about. Actually, as an avid traveler and a language learner, I absolutely love to immerse myself in new cultures through art, music, food, but most of all, by talking to people from different countries. It's safe to say that I'm not so much of an avid traveler these days because of Corona, but that's another story that I really don't want to talk about. So, without a single doubt, having lessons with Japanese people definitely taught me so many things about their language and culture. Not once, but twice, I had to explain this word komorebi to two of my young Japanese students. Well, actually, komorebi roughly translates into sunshine coming through the leaves or trees. We were all shocked at the fact that I actually knew what it was. As interesting as it sounds, it was such a mind-blowing experience for all of us. It was basically something I learned from another Japanese student in a lesson. I also learned a lot of phrases in Hakata dialect. Hakata is a Japanese dialect spoken in the Fukuoka prefecture. I learned phrases like, for example, zenzen yokobai, which means it is completely fine, or isogashikatta ne, which means I've been busy. Alright guys, it's time for a quick language learning tip. So I use this one when I learned all these Japanese phrases for my students, and also tested the same method when I learned German as well. And guys, it actually works. It's something called spaced repetition, where you basically learn, forget, and repeat the new words and phrases that you learn. It's kind of like a cycle. And forgetting what you learn is a part of the process. But the key point is actually repeating the cycle, ideally in the next 2 or 3 days, or when you feel like you're starting to forget them. This is by far one of the best ways to actually remember the new words and phrases that you learn. And I know how hard it is to actually keep them in your mind. So you can do this either by using these words or phrases in a natural conversation, or you can write a short text about them. I would personally recommend you guys to actually use them in a conversation. So, all I've done was basically repeat and share these words and phrases with my students from time to time, again and again. And now they're pretty much going to stay with me forever. I also found out that I was a big fan of the cuisine as well, and found myself a new comfort food. Maybe to some of you guys out there, it's a pretty basic one, but it's actually shrimp tempura. I guess I've been living under a rock for some time, right? So, I know some people are going to roast me for saying this, but I used to think that sushi was all about raw fish, but it's actually much more than that. Without a single doubt, I really had a chance to reconnect with the Japanese cuisine by having great conversations with my students. Now I don't care what time it is, I can have sushi for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, thank you guys for creating a sushi monster. I've also never been a big fan of anime, and I don't really watch anime except Hayao Miyazaki. But having so many conversations about his works with my students definitely made me realize that I actually knew very little about his movies. To be honest, learning so much about Hayao Miyazaki and his works gave me a great chance to have deep conversations with my students. I'm not gonna lie, having those conversations about his works was such a treat. I've also been teaching business English to a lot of business professionals from Japan as well. And I learned so much about the working culture, like how there's something called job rotation in Japanese companies, where you have to switch departments every 2 or 3 years. As I learned from my students, it's basically a result of lifelong employment, where employees are expected to work for the same company until they retire. And the second one is actually a little bit dark. So this one's called karoshi, which roughly translates into death from overwork, where people basically overwork themselves to death. And the last one is the difference between sogoshoku and ippan shoku, Well, we don't have such concepts in English or in the Western corporate culture, but I'll try my best to explain them. Alright, so Sogoshoku is a kind of employment where the employee actually has a chance to grow and have a career and get a promotion in the future. Whereas the Ippan Shoku actually stays in the same position for a long time. Alright guys, as for the final remarks, I just want to say that I really miss traveling, and it goes without saying that Cambly definitely gave me a huge opportunity to immerse myself in different cultures without even having to travel around or even leaving my house. It's definitely been great connecting with people all around the world. As for me, I've actually never been to Japan and learned so much just by teaching or having a nice conversation with my students. So before signing off, I just want to say that learning about new cultures is a great way to broaden your horizons. It brings people closer and also help you have a strong bond with your students. Alright guys, there you have it. So make sure you guys stay safe and stay healthy. Bye.